The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Hello and welcome to the Hoop Ball NBA DFS Today podcast. Today is Thursday, October 3rd, and I am Joe Sarvadi, affectionately known as Coach, and I am joined by one of the sharks in the NBA DFS world, my partner in crime here, Mr. Michael Apotria. How are you today, Mike?
I'm doing good, man. I mean, we're here. We're a day away. It's going to be at 1 a.m. the first showdown slate. Just a little teaser for it now. We're going to be doing a small little podcast for that slate. So, tune in, guys, for that as well. Tune into this one. But I'm fired up, man. I'm ready to jump in this head first, win some money.
I know. I mean, it was nuts just to get on there and see the pricing on a couple of the sites that are doing preseason, and it's just like, wow, we're here, dude. This is it. But it's great. We're on the doorstep. But and I know we announced a little bit of it on last week's show, and but for those that hadn't heard, or for the official announcement, we are going daily. We're going to be on 7 days a week. And so, free content that is going to be presented by our main sponsor, Fantasy Draft. So really excited and thankful that Fantasy Draft is coming to the table, and a lot of the work also by Hoop Ball. Hoop Ball is our bread and butter. Dan Bespris and Brewski and the team there. So we're thankful to both that are helping us bring all of this forward, and we're just looking forward to making everybody a bunch of money and getting it done. So, we'll start right off quickly with our sponsor read here with Fantasy Draft. They are the only rake-free fantasy site that's out there. They have really opened up a whole new world for DFS players with this rake-free option now that everybody has, which saves an incredible amount of money and allows you to keep a counter and see what you're saving in rake. And I know from my own standpoint, I just cannot believe how much I've been burning in rake up until now. So that's awesome. And they have their big NFL Hooters contest again this coming Sunday. So make sure, if you're going to sign up, get on fantasydraft.com, put in the promo code HOOPBALL, all one word, HOOPBALL, and that gives you 7-day free membership up to $1,000 in wagers. And the big question that we haven't talked about is, how did you do in the NFL? I know you've been raking so far.
I got owned last week, Coach.
Oh no!
Yeah, no, I played smart though. I didn't do too much. Like I said, you got to manage your bankroll. It's the number one most important thing in DFS. So that way, you don't just get over your head, blow your wad, and be depositing the next week. We want to deposit once a year. That is our goal.
There you go.
Kind of sets yourself that limit, I guess you could say. But, and manage it. Even if it comes down to you having to play quarter arcades, just manage your money the best you could. That's the best advice I can give somebody heading into the year. Except for, of course, these first couple days when you go in there. I guess I go a little bit overboard on that. I dive into the deep pockets for a little bit on the opening night, just because that's a night that we can take advantage of.
Well, we've been talking about it for a long time. I mean, this 3 weeks of preseason, and then, the first 2, 3, 4 weeks of the regular season is just, for several years in a row now, both of us have done extremely well. And again, it's, people are getting used to the pricing. The sites are trying to set the pricing, to get everything in line. And you can really take advantage of that. Like, we'll talk about, some with on that later pod, just right off the bat. It's so different at the beginning, and there's so much advantage. And we're really going to gear the show from everybody that for beginning DFS players that are just going to play those quarter arcade games to the big sharks that are 150 backs entering. Our goal is to provide all of the information as in-depth as we possibly can that's going to give everybody an edge going forward and make our daily show a must listen. The other cool thing, Mike, and we've talked a lot about this in launching the show is, and Dan and I talked about it on Fantasy NBA today as well, is, we're going to do these broadcasts in the evening, after the games and everything, prior to the next day. So you're going to be able to tune in on your, way to work or any time throughout the day, lunch break, whatever, and get all of the information for that card that evening. So you're not having to wait and go a million miles an hour, trying to listen to the lap pods, 20 minutes before lock and everything. And then the great advantage that we have is we have a huge team at Hoop Ball behind us that is going to be constantly tweeting out blurbs and posting everything on hoop-ball.com for anything that takes place during the day. If there's a late announcement of an injury or somebody sitting out, so you'll have all of the information to work on all during the day. So no matter what sites or price levels you're going to be playing, it'll help you be prepared. And then you'll have that information on Hoop-Ball and Twitter to follow for any of the changes. And you can also throw any tweets out to both of us at any time at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi, or at Mike Apotria, MikeApotria. And we will also be responding to those during the day. So that's a fresh approach that I know was important for both of us, because I think it just gives us a big advantageous aspect and a real advantage for our listeners to be able to soak that in and not have to cram it in at the last minute.
Absolutely. I mean, I know years ago I used to be, and I still do, I still love listening to other people and our fellow writers. You can only learn from your peers. It's one thing I've always tried to keep in mind and have an open mind, especially when discussing fantasy sports or DFS with any other person. But that's the number one way I used to listen, man. And I still do. Podcast while I'm working. One of my favorite things. So we want to provide that for everybody on their morning commute, on their way there, on their way home. Maybe they're just doing some day-to-day labor, and it's something that they got plugged into their headphones. But get involved, guys. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna be doing these contests too, Coach. Don't forget about those.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And we just finalized that today too. Fantasy draft, which those contests will start when the regular season starts. The first one is on October 22nd on opening night, and they have decided to call it the Coach's Challenge. How about that? So I'll be talking a little bit of noise out there since it's going to be my official challenge that I get to throw out there on a weekly basis. Yeah.
Oh, I love this.
It's going to be so cool. We're also doing it as there's like a three. We'll go into this later because it's a little far off and we got so much to cover today. But it's going to be a fun contest for the listeners to get in, make some money, and just talk a little noise back and forth. And I know you and I will be battling because we're going to keep score on a daily basis to see who wins that head-to-head competition each week. So that's my most important factor for sure. So. All right, before we could go on and on here, but we do have a big chunk of show left because we're in the third part of the three-part series of going through each team individually and talking about all of the DFS information from each team that's happened throughout the offseason between drafts, free agents, player movement, etc., and how that's going to affect DFS. We've done the first two shows where we covered the Atlantic Central and then the Southeast and Northwest. Now we get to do the Pacific and Southwest, which is definitely the juice and the meat and all the good teams. So it should be a lot of fun doing these squads today. So let's get rolling right off the bat and get through these final 10. And then don't forget, if you haven't heard the first two and you're trying to, really get a grasp on, everything prior to the beginning of this preseason so you can make some money, go back and listen to these shows. They're long. I'll just tell you, each show's run, like an hour and a half. So, it's packed with information. Listen to it in segments or however you need to do it. But I'll tell you, it's really worth a re-listen. I've listened to these shows back and just helped me take some notes and things that we've discussed. So, all right, brother, the first team is the Golden State Warriors. And I want to start us off today with a clip from Draymond Green, which I think is really awesome because he's talking a little bit how the Warriors are disrespected and teams are, everybody's counting them out, which is big danger. So let's listen in to Draymond Green, and then we'll jump in with Golden State.
Everybody thinks it's kind of end of us. That's just not smart. We're not done yet.
Do you still feel that way?
I've heard people say we're not going to make the playoffs. That's crazy to me. I mean, that's just like, that's total disrespect, but no different than the disrespect we've all been getting for years.
And there you go, Mike. Dangerous. Do not poke a champion tiger when everybody's counting them out, and they are still going to be tough.
Absolutely. I mean, yes, they lost a lot of star power. Durant leaving, Klay Thompson due to his injury. Actually, I believe Looney just kind of rolled his ankle a little bit. It's probably nothing too severe, but I mean, right now they can't really afford any injuries. They want to go in there and make a statement. But yeah, they got the fire. They're going to be playing with the fire. They're still going to be electric. The addition of D'Angelo Russell is going to keep them afloat, give them that scoring punch that they need, and they still have 3 ball handlers, 3 facilitators. They're going to play quick, and let's be real, Steph Curry is going to be an MVP candidate this year. He's the greatest shooter of all time. So anybody that's counting them out is kind of foolish. But they're definitely going to have to push the pace this year. They're a team that I'm really looking forward to playing, and I think they're going to be a little bit more vulnerable on the defensive end, especially with Klay Thompson gone now. So we're actually going to be able to target a few more teams against them, take advantage of that pace. And I'm wondering, Coach, is that something that you've kind of taken into account for and been looking forward to?
Absolutely. I agree with you. I think their pace of play will increase. I mean, Kerr's always played fast anyway, but, they've also been very highly ranked defensively. That did fall off a little bit last year, and I think you'll see a little bit more regression defensively, like you stated. So I'm with you on that one. I would target a lot of Golden State games because they're going to get up and down the floor. And, the big question mark for everybody is going to be, exactly how D'Angelo Russell is going to fit into this entire mix. I mean, Curry's certainly going to be a plug and play option every night for one of your main guys. That'll be, he'll be more expensive, but, he's going to produce, on a very regular basis, I would anticipate. And Draymond for sure being motivated, coming in shape, and, having to carry a little bit more of a role. He's probably a triple-double waiting to happen every night this year for sure. And then the other pieces, we'll see how they come into play, with like you said, Looney, who's going to miss just a couple of preseason games here, and Cauley Stein once he gets back into the flow. And, you've got new guys coming in like Glenn Robinson and, Alfonso McKinney, who's still trying to make a spot on the team. And there's going to be some guys that need to step up. But, as far as a usage rate goes, I mean, I used Curry a ton last year, and I used Draymond quite a bit. And, that's when, in different stretches throughout the season, they had Klay and KD or, other Iguodala on the floor, and those guys are gone. So this is going to be a target team for me, just like it is going to be for a lot of other people out there. And I know a lot of people are touting it that way, but I just don't see how you steer from, the fact that they're going to not be blowing teams out. So they're Their starters are going to need to play more minutes in more competitive games. The pace will be good, and I think it speaks for itself.
Absolutely. And, Draymond Green was a completely different player once he started to get healthy last season. I mean, early on he struggled, mostly just due to little lingering injuries. But when that guy's healthy, he's an unbelievable player. And, I'm generally not the type of person, especially because I'm a GPP player, where I would like to play Draymond and Curry in the same lineup because they can eat into each other's assist value. A little bit, not too much, but obviously a little bit. And I think we're going to see a lot of Russell just primarily playing the two, a little bit of ball handling responsibilities. But Curry's going to come off ball and get those little curl assists very easily. But I think now we're going to see most of this offense run through Draymond and run through Steph solely. And we're going to be able to play these guys in the same lineups of GPPs finally, because like you said, Draymond can easily hit a triple-double and Steph can get 9-10 assists in the same night.
And, I'm going to counter point that a slight bit. I think because Clay's out and, obviously, Curry's the best shooter in history, I think we may see Kerr give the ball to D'Angelo a lot more and let him create some stuff and let Curry work off the ball for a change a little bit. Because, he can come off of those curl screens just like the plays they run for Clay and get some wide open looks. And I think that'll just as a whole dimension that they may throw at people. So don't be surprised if they don't mess with that option a little bit, which could make, Steph even more dangerous. And then it also brings D'Angelo into DFS play, because obviously you'll see some more assist totals and things like that. So it's going to be a fun team to use, but I think Kerr will mess around with that a little bit.
Yeah, you have to take advantage of just how both of them could play multi positions. But my thing with Russell is I'm expecting him to come in with a fairly high price tag for my liking. I'm anticipating almost a Klay Thompson role for him. Maybe a little bit more ball handling responsibilities, like we said. It'll be obviously more assists than Klay would have. Probably even a little bit more rebounds than Klay would have, but I'm expecting the scoring to be very, very similar, as in the amount of shots he's going to be able to take per game. And this is also a guy integrating himself into a new offense, so I'm not expecting him to be overly aggressive, especially on a culture that already has a winning thing going. So we're probably going to see him take a small step back in that aspect. But when his price tag gets down from what I'm anticipating it to look like, if it's anywhere near what it was last season, obviously with all the usage he was getting over there at Brooklyn, I'm not going to go near it. Once it comes down a little bit though, and gets into a price where I can stomach, I'll be happy to have plenty of shares of Russell.
I'm with you, and then once Klay does get back, then we have to reset the entire discussion because everything changes for sure. I think knowing how healthy he usually is and how well he's come through this surgery, and he's way ahead of schedule. I know they won't push him, especially after all the disasters last year with getting guys back too soon. But once he does come back, I'm expecting him to be a super stud. I can't wait. I have him stashed on a couple of my year-long leagues just because I think he's going to be one of those guys that when the first game back, I'm looking for 10 threes. I think he's just coming right at it. So it's going to be fun to see.
He's a gamer. He's definitely a gamer. So if there's someone that's going to try to push himself to come back early, I could see it being Klay.
No doubt. All right, dude, let's go on to team 2. Do you want to lead us off with one of the obviously biggest discussed teams in the offseason, the LA Clippers?
Absolutely. And this is a team that we're gonna kind of be talking about a little bit tomorrow as well. Again, you're going to be hearing us talking about that DFS one-game slate, and it's the Clippers versus Rockets. So pay attention. Some of this might be useful for tomorrow as well. So one thing that we're going to have to take into account, a big thing, obviously, with the two big pieces coming over there being Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, is that Paul George is still recovering from multiple surgeries during the offseason, one being on his rotator cuff. And I believe the other one was
the other shoulder.
Shoulder.
He had both shoulders.
Yeah, and he's still not healthy. He's still not back from that. Even when you do get back, that's not an injury that you just completely recover from. You got to kind of shake the rust off. You kind of got to get your mechanics back down to normal. and I'm expecting him to kind of ease him in. This team's in it for the long haul. They're obviously made the playoff with the pieces that they had. So I'm expecting really good things from this team. But we're going to have to keep an eye on guys like Mo Harkless. He's most likely going to be the candidate to start in place of Paul George. And we've seen Mo Harkless be a very, very, very cheap price tag, but be able to bring back a pretty good return for it. So he's also a guy that, we're going to get to again. But, the big confusion at center with Harrell and Zubac chopping up the minutes. Obviously, Harrell's the guy that we want to see get the minutes just because he's a little bit more explosive. Zubac could put up numbers, and if we start to hint that he's getting 28 minutes per game, he's a guy that we're going to want to target when his price is low enough. But those are really, obviously Kawhi Leonard too on the nights that we know he's playing big minutes. But those are the only guys I'm really targeting on this team. Lou Williams is a candidate for GPPs always because you can just go bananas and score 30 in the fourth quarter. He's crazy like that. But I'm not a big Patrick Beverley guy unless it's a very limited slate with very few games. And the wings I'm okay with. I'm just going to stick with my stud wings, and the big guy up front that I know is going to get the minutes. Yeah,
that's a good take. I think for me, the Clippers, as exciting as they're going to be, they're such a phenomenal defensive group of guys. If they gel defensively, I don't know how anybody's going to beat them. They have the potential to be one of the best defensive teams, I think, in years. So, that being said, how's that going to affect pace? Playing such great D chews up a ton of the shot clock. And, I don't believe they're going to push the ball beyond belief. They're going to want to get it set up, use Kawhi, use George, and Paul George will be, it looks like miss maybe 3 weeks, first 3 weeks. So he'll be back mid-November, or somewhere in that neighborhood. They won't rush him back. But, I'm not going to be targeting a ton of Clippers, to be honest with you, early on, specifically, with the fact that I think their pace of play just, from the defensive side, like I said, is going to be a little challenging. And then there's going to be a lot of guys, jockeying for some minutes. I think that'll share some time with Harkless and JaMychal Green, and like you said, with Zubac and Harrell splitting time, and Beverly and Lou Williams and Shamet. Shamet could have some good progression this year as well. So I think they're going to be playing the ultimate team ball. I mean, I'd love to coach this team. They're because you have so many weapons and you have such great defense. But from a DFS standpoint, it's going to be once Kawhi is definitely in there playing healthy, ready to go, and going to get it's a good game against a solid opponent. I think you got to look at Kawhi a lot before Paul George comes back for sure, just because of the usage standpoint. Then when George comes back, those two will slice that up a little bit. And then, like you said, if you have a 3 or 4 game slate, and you can pick and choose, if it's a team that just doesn't guard the shooting guard well and you want to take a flyer on a super cheap Landry Shamet or something like that, it's going to be more, those kind of plays. But I know, a guy that like myself that only builds a lineup or two and plays cash and single entry, there won't be a lot of Clippers on my lineup, which is bizarre because, they're probably the best team in the league and they're the favorites to win it. But it just goes to show you the flash doesn't always have to be there. It's the team and the whole concept and coaching and defense. And that's what I sort of love about it. That makes me excited for the season.
Yeah, and I mean it's pretty much right what you said with the defense, and it's just like when we think of teams like the Jazz who always have like a very elite defense, we're not playing multiple Jazz, we're not playing a lot of guys against the Jazz, so taking the same approach to the Clippers is probably the right one to take. And barring injury and random spot starts and great matchups, I'm right on board with you. Clippers are not a team that I'm highly targeting, and I'm not going to target many teams against them.
Awesome. All right, let's move on to Team 3. I'll jump on that to start off. The Los Angeles Lakers. their counterparts there. Obviously, big in the news this year as well, and they'll be playing on Saturday, so we'll be talking about them soon in preseason ball as well. But from a DFS standpoint, LA is going to be extremely interesting this year. I mean, I do believe that there's it's going to take time for them to gel. I think that Vogel, putting all his system in, it's going to be a big change, obviously, with adding Davis and so many guys leaving, and then Dwight Howard stepping in, and Danny Green, Quinn Cook. I mean, you've just got a whole new unit there. Now, I know they're working hard here preseason wise. Supposedly, they're working a lot off the court together and trying to get that synergy together early on. But it's going to be a little bit of a wait and see with the Lakers for me. I think that LeBron has been super high. I've taken him in my year-long leagues in the first round in a couple of them, because I think this is sort of a redemption year for him. All the heat he took for not playing D, and sort of, having a first injury like that put him out for quite some time. And he looks fit. I know Father Time can be tough, but he looks incredibly fit. I think he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder, and I'll be plugging LeBron James in early on in the season. Now, the guy, I noticed right off the bat, if you look at, and I hate to refer to it, but I have to, is, looking at some of the pricing for this weekend, Anthony Davis right away, by far the highest priced guy on the board at like 11.4 in the preseason. So I think he's going to be getting those tags early. And as awesome as he is, and as well as I think he's going to do, I'm not going to be willing probably early on to be paying, top guy on the board dollars for Davis for several of the reasons that I said. I think there's just it's going to take time to get some continuity together, and it's going to take some time to get the system down. So early on, I'll be plugging LeBron in a lot. Kuzma's injured with that ankle still from when he played on Team USA, so he'll be coming along a little bit slower. You've got the split time right now, it's looking like, with Howard and McGee at center, which is a sort of a DSF crusher, because it's hard to play guys when they're going to split minutes like that. But maybe somebody comes out of that scruff ahead of the game, and maybe not. Maybe Davis does slide over against his will a little bit and play some 5 when they want to play a lineup with Kuzma and LeBron and go bigger. So that creates a lot of discomfort with, the minutes equal money scenario for me for some of their bigs. And then at the guard spot, how much of a role is Rondo going to have? Is LeBron going to, really be the main point guard? Is he going to split that with Rondo? How is all of that going to fly? I'm sure Quinn Cook will get, 15, 18 minutes backup work at that spot. And then you're going to have, that conglomeration at the other guard spot. To me, I don't think anybody's really stepping out of that to be a DFS threat for me. Danny Green, obviously they brought him in for his experience in defense, but Caldwell Pope, Avery Bradley, supposedly, from what the coach said yesterday, has been the most impressive in the first few days of camp. And then you have Alex Caruso that may get a few minutes as well. So they've got a lot of issues and rotations to work out. And all that being said is, for me, DFS-wise, I think Davis is going to be priced too high the first 3-4 weeks. LeBron may be in my wheelhouse, and everybody else is a wait and see.
Well, I'm with you on just basically playing either LeBron and Davis. I don't think anybody else has the necessary upside in their tool bag in order to get me to where I need to be in a GPP. So I'm basically just looking at those two, but I'm not really scared off of Davis's price tag. I mean, just knowing the games we've seen from him in the past, where he almost puts up a triple double with blocks, and just what he's capable of. I think if you are in a new team, especially when you're playing with LeBron James, and LeBron James has like the sort of respect he does have for Anthony Davis, he's going to make it very easy for him to kind of mesh with this team and get involved. He's going to look to get Davis involved earlier in the post. And not to mention, like we said, we're going to be able to take advantage of all the value in other spots because of the pricing errors on like the first night or two.
That's true.
So we'll have a little money to spend, I'm anticipating anyway. So, if you're going to spend up, I wouldn't mind doing it on Davis in a good matchup. But, I mean, there's, like we said, a few other guys that you could do it with too.
Yeah, no doubt about it. How do you think Kuzma's going to fit into this mix? Because I think the kid's terrific, and I know this ankle's going to get him off to a little bit of a slow start. But do you see him playing a big role?
It's going to be tough. He's going to be basically cherry picking for these long rebounds and trying to push the pace a little bit because, especially if they are playing with a bigger lineup with JaVale and Davis or Howard and Davis in there, it's going to be hard for him to operate in the paint whatsoever. So he's going to have to really like be a stand in the corner 3-point shooter. It's going to be tough for him to do that. I mean, he does have a pretty good shot. He's not particularly known for it in that same breath, but. He's going to have to change his game up a little bit, and I think we're going to see a lot less counting stats from him this season.
Yeah, I don't disagree. He's going to be one of those guys, though, if you pick him on the right night, can break a slate and win a GPP for you because he has those outbursts where he gets rolling, he's slashing to the hoop and knocking some threes down. I think he's a game changer, but he's going to have to. He's not shy, that's for sure. He will shoot the ball. So I think he'll get his looks, but it's just going to be fitting into that scheme. It's going to be very interesting to see, no doubt about it. Okay, anything else on the Lakers for you?
I think that's all I got for him. I mean, it's pretty much right in stone right here. Like you said, just the studs, and I think that's all you guys need to worry about. So I think we're ready to move on.
All right. Okay, we're going to go to the Phoenix Suns, and when we before we get started with them, one of the signings that I thought was awesome in the off season is I love the fact that they grabbed Ricky Rubio. I felt right off the bat he'd be just the catapult that I think Devin Booker needs to be. All-star team, NBA discussion, all NBA type discussion player. He just needed that facilitator with him. And DeAndre Ayton as well. I think the Suns, I don't anticipate being the worst record in the West this year. I think Rubio is going to make a huge difference. And we have a nice clip here of Rubio and just talking about his excitement for joining the Suns.
Really excited to be here, really talking with James before and then the last couple of weeks, or the last week with Monty. It's been an honor to really see a franchise where they building something special. A lot of young guys, and I can bring to the table my experience where I'm already 28, so been 8 years in the league with a lot of. In Minnesota, we have a lot of different teams, and then in Utah, with my experience going to a playoff, I think I can bring that to the young guys, really help them reach the level they deserve. I see a lot of DeAndre or Devin Booker. I've been talking to them the last couple of days, and they're really excited too, and can't wait to jump on the court, start working with them.
All right, and there you go. I mean, Rubio coming off of, the Spain winning and him playing so fantastic in FIBA. I mean, this is just a perfect scenario for him to come in and lead these young guys. He mentioned in that interview 8 seasons in the league already, but he's only 28. So, I mean, he's right in his prime, and I think they're going to be a solid team. You want to tackle the Suns?
I mean, I'd love to. I know this is also one of the teams you like to higet that you're going to be targeting too. So I'm not going to say too much because I know you're probably chopping at the bits looking to talk about the Suns. So I'll just get to the nuts and bolts with this one. I mean, they're going to have a lot of DFS friendly options on this team. They're going to play at extremely fast pace. You're going to hear Coach probably get to that in a minute. But DeAndre in another year under his belt, it's going to help him. Sophomore seasons we sometimes either see a make or break seasons for guys. They'll either boom or they'll bust. It's one or the other. But I'm expecting him to be a very fantasy-friendly player. Ricky Rubio, if he's the one piece, I know you said you're excited about him. I'm excited about him from an actual basketball standpoint. As far as a DFS option, I think it's going to be tough for him to, the assists will be there for him, but it's going to be tough to get any kind of offense going. There are a lot of young guys on that team as well, and it's harder to get these young guys to kind of buy into the same offense, the same system of having like that pure point guard run it for them. So a lot of these young guys are going to want to try to create for themselves, and hopefully that doesn't bother Rubio as much. But Kelly Oubre, another player that we've seen take a big leap last season once he was brought over to the Suns. So I'm expecting another step forward from him. He's going to be another very, very DFS friendly option. And then they also brought in Dario Saric, who he's I don't know if you've seen it, Coach, but his little passive answer, they asked him how is he going to fit in. He said, I'm going to just try to maybe this is a paraphrase. He said, I'm going to try to just fit in and get a couple shots up. So he's not a very enthusiastic guy, but he's still there, and he's going to get a lot of time at power forward as well. So I'm excited about it. I'm looking to target a lot of guys that are playing the Suns, and this is going to be a popular team that we're going to see some stacks with.
Yeah, I've been chatting them up a lot in the preseason just because I think they're going to be such a great team to not only play guys on but target against as well. I've heard one of my favorite coaches is Monty Williams. Met him personally at a couple coaches clinics years ago, and one of the nicest guys I've ever met. And I think he's just a great coach, and he's come through with worked with some super coaches on his way up, to getting this head coaching job. And he's talked about though that he's really going to take the chains off of and let these guys run up and down the floor and really let them play and play a high tempo game. And, there's not a lot of great defenders on this squad for sure. So between the tempo, the new system he's going to put in, I'll be having the Suns on a lot of my NBA ticket, watching them just for guys on their team and against them. Now, you made a great point. As much as I think Rubio's the addition that makes all of this work, he's not particularly going to be my DFS target. I agree with you. I don't think he's going to put enough on the board maybe to substantiate his price at times. But I think he's going to be that straw that stirs everything to really make great targets for guys like Booker and Ayton specifically. I think you'll be able to find good spot starts for Oubre. I think Kelly Oubre is going to take a step forward. Dario Saric, like you said, he's a mild-mannered guy that can throw double-doubles on the board like crazy. I think you're also going to see a possibility of and they've talked about it a bit in the preseason. I know it's a lot of noise, but they've talked about letting Ayton run a little 4 and playing Baines at the 5 in some lineups.
No, stop, Coach. We can't. No, there's no. I know
it might happen, dude. I'm telling you.
There's no. I hope they do try it. He's not. He is not a power forward. He's a big, huge center. I get that, but he can face up, and he's got a nice little shot. And I think I know Monty thinks outside of the box a lot in his coaching techniques, and I know Ayton's been talking that noise that he's a natural 4 and all that baloney, which isn't true. But just don't be surprised if you see a little bit more, of that mix a little bit. I think it could happen. So you never know. Not consistently, but a little bit. So I just think it would go against with their other point of their culture, which is trying to push the pace. It's really going to slow down the entire game for them. Just waiting for these two guys to both get up the court, both set up, clogs the paint for both of them. And the other guy being Aaron Baines is the other name that we didn't mention, but.
That's what I said. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear you say that.
But the thing is, though, that you're discounting is Ayton is a rim runner. He was at Arizona. That's what I think. He didn't do it last year. The system was jacked up. The coach, I just didn't have any idea what they were doing last year. It was a disaster. But he's a rim runner. He's a Capella kind of guy that can just fill the lane with those monster strides, and catch alley-oops from Rubio and knock them down. So I just there's a lot of intrigue with this team. I think there's a lot of guys you'll be able to use on a given night. And again, there's no defensive stoppers that I really see very strong on this team. So you're going to be able to stack against them. I mean, there'll be a lot of games. I don't do a lot of stacking in NBA like you do in other sports. I think you don't want to do that to an extreme. But a two-man stack is very reasonable in a high-scoring game. I can see myself, going with a Booker 8 and then two guys against the team as well. And, you're looking for a 122, 117 kind of game where those guys are going to carry it for you. So I'll be doing that a lot, I can tell you right now.
Yeah, and realistically, the only time you're doing anything more than two guys for each team in a stack is if you're just trying to hope the game goes to overtime. It becomes an insanely high-scoring game, and it's in a multi-entry GPP that you have a ton of other entries on. Otherwise, you're kind of just wasting your bullets. Trying to do that on just the highest-scoring game and hope it goes to overtime every single night.
You can't do that consistently.
No,
but
exactly.
If it's a two high-paced teams, and I've had some good success in cash games. Not even having to wish for the lucky overtime, but if you're going to get a 122, 118 game where they're up and down the floor, you can stack two. I don't think twos are.
Oh no! You misunderstood me. I said you could do two. Anything more than that, anything more than that, and you're hoping for overtime is what I'm saying.
Right. Now, we may have to get a little crazy on those nights where there's only 2 or 3 games and stuff, but in regular scenarios. Like in baseball, I mean, you look at these, it's amazing. I mean, baseball, basically people play 5 and 3 stacks or 4 and 4, and it's just whatever team runs up a bunch of runs. It's absolutely opposite of, you've got to be on your game with basketball and cherry pick the guys that are going to step out against specific teams for whatever that reason is, whether it's matchup, pace, etc. So I'm with you, man. But if there's any team that's on my list for two-man stacks, it's the Suns and who plays against them. So just something to keep out there because that'll be some of my early plays. All right, let's roll. We're doing a little bit better on time than we normally do somehow. So let's just keep this magic flowing. And I will jump into the Sacramento Kings, an interesting squad that a lot of intrigue with this team on if they're going to, take a step forward. I think with Coach Walton there and, him wanting to play up-tempo, I think, again, that's perfect example. If you give me a Suns-Kings late game, oh, my gosh, I may jump off my couch with the players for that. But obviously, De'Aaron Fox, massive step forward last year. I think, that may level off to, where he played last year, which was a great level. I don't know if he'll progress a tremendous amount further, to where he did last year. But, very good. And if you played him in the right spots, he definitely took down some cash game and some GPPs for you. Obviously will be the main guy at point. They brought in Corey Joseph for a little backup. Yogi Ferrell's still there, so he'll get a breather, but he's your main man. Buddy Hield, who's sort of been a big sweetheart in a lot of the preparation leagues and a lot of the early tout talk here with guys to put a circle around for this coming year. Obviously can shoot the eyes out and just really seemed to put it together, especially the second half of last year, bring the whole game together at another level. I think he's going to be a big plus, and a good guy to use in specific spots. Bogdanovich is backing him up. How many minutes he'll get is in question. He had a really good FIBA tournament, so I think he's earned some minutes, but Hield's definitely going to be your main guy there. the other guys, you've got Harrison Barnes, who they paid $90 million to. They also paid Trevor Ariza a bunch of money. I think those are not going to be fantasy targets for me on a regular basis, for sure. Just the inconsistency there. I know both guys on a given night can throw some numbers up, but not a target. Just concerned about exact usage and how that's going to pan out there. I'm a big Marvin Bagley guy. I have been all along. I think he's the potential best player on this team. I think if he gets healthy and is focused, I think he may have the best progression forward. I think in pricing wise, he's still reasonable enough that you can get him in there and play him, and have him as a good part of your lineup and not use up too much salary. So Bagley's going to be a big target. I think you put a big circle around him. I know Dwayne Dedman. I'm not the biggest Dwayne Dedman guy. I know you are. I know a lot of guys. He's a sneaky guy to put stats up. He is a good rebounder, and in the right spots, maybe a good guy to get some action. I like Harry Giles a lot. I know he's hurt again for the millionth time a little bit and gonna miss some time in preseason, which really is disappointing for me to hear, because I thought he would be a guy that would really get into that rotation. But now I'm starting to worry, if this is going to be the kind of guy that's just going to be a constant injury possibility. So really after that, they have Rashawn Holmes as another backup big. But, for me, it's going to be the Fox and Hield and Bagley show, I think, as with most people. And, with the pace that they're going to play and what Walton's saying, they're going to do with the ball as far as pushing it, they may be the fastest paced team in the league. I think it's possible, specifically when they go smaller and play Bagley at the 5 at times. So I'm excited for the Kings as well. It's weird to, from a DFS standpoint, we're talking about all these great teams in the West right now, and so far, I'm most excited about the Suns and Kings. That's DFS for you.
Exactly. We like the bad teams. Give us your Tony Rotens and your Ish Smiths when he's starting. Give us those guys. Those are the guys that we want to talk about.
No, thank you. I'll pass on those guys.
Listen, Tony Rotens won me some money in the past, but no. I mean, I'm right there with you on the Kings as far as the big names. I mean, the guys. Buddy Hield's a guy I could never get right. I hear you talk about that all the time, Coach. Just those guys that you can't get. He's one of those guys for me. I always struggle getting him on the right nights, and usually the nights I pick him, Fox has a big game. But I do like me some Dedman here and there. I'm actually anticipating him playing a few more minutes than most people are. I'm not expecting him to get a full workload at like 30, 32, 34, but I can see him hitting 26 to 28, and he's going to put up some numbers in there. He's a better season-long guy than he is a DFS guy, but we're going to see some in the right matchup, some big games from him. I'm not expecting a high price tag for him. But other than that, like you said, Bagley is going to be a huge target for a lot of people. He's just a point per minute. He really exploded in the second half of the season last year. I'm fully expecting that to transition into this year.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. Anything on do you like Barnes, Ariza?
I hate Barnes more than anything. I mean, let's be real. We're both Maverick guys, so deep down to our cores, we don't like him. No, and I mean it's just a really crowded wing area over there. It's just not one that I want anything to do with. I don't think there's enough minutes to go around. Bogdanovich is a guy that he just came out and said a few days ago he's anticipating himself playing 28 to 29 minutes, but you just really don't know where those minutes are coming from at this point. Maybe backing up the 2 and the 1 a little bit. But then they also, like you said, brought in Corey Joseph. They still have Yogi Ferrell. So there's just literally about 18 guys, it feels like, that could be on this team and play. I don't even understand. They're going to have veterans playing the G League. Like, they're going to have to do something. There's not enough minutes to go around for these guys. It almost feels like a Knicks front court situation on their wing. And it's not one that I want much to do with other than those big names. Like it's like you said, it's Fox, it's Hield, Bagley, and then occasionally I'm going to have my shares in Dedman and a low owned. Hopefully blows up, gets me 3-4 blocks, 2-3 steals, couple threes, good rebounds, decent points that day, and all of a sudden you're looking at 40-something points from Dwayne Dedman. You might have paid $5K for him, $4K for him.
Yeah, there's some bargains there. I'll tell you though, take a look if you have a chance at the salaries, for the Kings, for the guys they signed. The money that they paid that group of guys, Corey Joseph, Harrison Barnes, Dwayne Dedman, and some of those guys coming in. It's mind-boggling, to begin with Barnes at 90 million, but I don't know. I mean, that's Vlade is an interesting guy. I don't know I've never quite bought into his strategy. But what I can say is the one positive thing, and I think I mentioned this on an earlier show, but it's worth mentioning again. We were sitting right behind the first row area in the NBA Summer League, and the Kings were the only team that they must have had a mandatory everybody's there, has to be there at Summer League because they were going to do something team-wise, photos or whatever they had to do. So they were the only group that had their whole entire team there. And so we got to watch them intermingle amongst themselves for quite a bit. And there seemed to be a lot of camaraderie, from the young guys, specifically Fox, Hill, Bagley, Giles. They were joking a lot. The music was playing. They were dancing out. I mean, I like the vibe. I think there can be some improvement there, and I'm not going to be afraid to play some of these guys for sure.
No, we want that pace, so we're gonna take advantage of it. Like you said, we're gonna have that day circled, Kings and Suns, and I'm gonna hold you to it. I want to see your stack the following day on that.
I'm doing 2-2 for sure, minimum. I may even go crazy and go 3-2 that night.
Overtime.
Double OT. All right. Well, you know who's next? The Dirk Nowitzki-less Dallas Mavericks.
Yes. I mean, we both could probably talk about this team forever. It is our, both of our favorite teams.
It is. It's my hometown team, so.
It's what got me into ball. I mean, it's sad that we're not going to be able to see Dirk out there. I hope everyone is able to cash in on his farewell game.
I was there in person, dude. Yeah. It was the greatest. It was the best.
Dude, unbelievable. This guy's just one of a kind. We'll never be able to watch another player like him, and I hope everyone got to soak it all up while they could. But just like all good things, they do come to an end. And
he's the nicest guy in basketball history, too. I mean, he is the nicest guy. It's almost incredible how nice the guy is.
He's phenomenal. And he still loves going to Dallas. He's one of those guys that's going to be welcomed in any city he goes to. Everybody loves him. He's one of the most loved by players as well. There's not a single player that'll have a bad thing to say about Dirk Nowitzki. So It just goes to show when you're that kind of guy, like to have that kind of, just like Dwayne Wade. There's not a player out there that has a bad thing to say about Dwayne Wade. So these guys, they go down, they're legends. And I'm just grateful to be able to, kind of grow up during the era and watch him play. He's one of the guys I mentioned that got me into ball, but we're not playing him this year. We got to look at the guys.
Time to move on.
Yeah, they re-signed Dwight Powell. Dwight Powell's going to be starting center. They bring in Chris Tops in the trade, but sent Dennis Smith Jr. over there. Luka obviously coming into his sophomore year after winning Rookie of the Year, expecting to take a little bit of another step forward and kind of show us what else he can do with his game. One of my favorite signings, I got to hear what you want to think about this, is DeLon Wright, though. I think that was a phenomenal signing. Yes, they still have the other Curry over there, Seth, but this guy is so underrated, and he's always kind of had a little bit of an injury bug following him in limited minutes playing over there when he was on the bench in Toronto, but just showing how explosive he was when he was given a chance to start over in Memphis for that short period of time. I kind of liked what I saw from him, and he's going to be a guy that I think is going to be a GPP stud. He's going to be, that medium price tag, but every once in a while, he's going to blow up.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love the signing. I mean, he was a little expensive, but I think he was worth it. I think it was a great pickup. I mean, he's penciled in as the starting point guard right now. I do have a little questions on shooting percentage and a few things, but I think, my only concern right now, and I love the fact that the Mavericks have him, don't get me wrong, but the reason why he's not going to be a huge DFS target for me initially is I've seen Carlisle coach for so long, and he does rotate his guys. He is not the fastest paced coach, And, I think with Jalen Brunson on the team, he's going to get minutes. J.J. Barea is back this year. He's going to get some minutes. Seth Curry's in the rotation. And Luka's definitely going to play some point as well. So my concern is the money equals minutes and a big conglomeration of guards there. And Tim Hardaway as well, playing the two. Or Justin Jackson. They're both threes, but they can play a little two. So you've got a lot of guys, and I'm concerned about the rotation. Luka, obviously, super overpriced, though. I mean, there were a few slates the last couple of weeks of the NBA season last year where Luka was priced higher than Harden. And I mean, it was like people lost their minds on pricing on Luka, because I know last year they had traded like everybody on the team away, and he was the only remaining like first top 8 guys on the team. So his usage went up and his price went up, but he's overpriced. The rest of the guards, I like the depth, but not for DFS. So I don't particularly want any of that group initially. So as much as I'm happy that DeLon Wright's with the Mavericks, he's not going to be a target for me. The guy that I'm going to target, and I know everybody's like, they're going to bring Porzingis along slow. He's been out 2 years. He's injury prone. He's this, he's that. Well, I've watched very closely. He should have played the last 3 months of last year. He was healthy enough. So he's been healthy for a long, long time. He's in great shape. He's ready to go. And people forget the unicorn, man. I mean, he may lead the league in blocks. I mean, he's a great 3-point shooter. He's a terrific, terrific player. And Porzingis is going to be in my lineups like crazy early on. I know that he's not going to play 35, 36 minutes, but he's going to play enough minutes to make a monster dent in the scoreboard. So Porzingis is my main guy for the Mavs. Luka, of course, on a given night, but you're going to burn a lot of salary. After that, though, dude, I am not a Mavericks DFS guy. I'll be rooting for them to win every game, but I don't want the mixture of Powell, Kleber, and Boban splitting any minutes at point guard, and then Kristaps maybe playing a little 5. Don't know thank you with any of that. I know everybody loves Dwight Powell. Everybody drafted Dwight Powell. Mid-rounds are pretty high. I'm just concerned that he's not going to have enough minutes. And, that's my main concern. And then, again, like I mentioned, all those other guys between Finney-Smith, Justin Jackson, Hardaway, Brunson, Curry, Barea, DeLon Wright, that's great depth, but disaster for DFS because it's going to be all split up. So I like the direction of the Mavericks. I'm not quite sure they're going to be a playoff team yet. I think they'll be trying to slide in there on the bottom of the chain if they can. But Kristaps is my initial target for sure.
I definitely don't disagree with you with Kristaps. He's just one guy I think I might just take a little bit of the wait-and-see approach, because there has been talks about, like you said, limiting him in ways, but they haven't really explained how.
So you're going to wait and to win the money later then? Is that what you're trying to say?
I want to see. My main concern is if they get down in games, do they play him in the fourth quarter? Probably not. If they're up in games, do they need to play him in the fourth quarter? Probably not. And then are they going to rest his minutes, or are they just going to let him sit out back-to-backs? We also need to find out exactly what kind of rest he is going to see, because Cuban hasn't exactly been shy to the fact that they're going to rest him at some point in some different ways. So on those days where he does sit, I think maybe I'll take a look at Maxi Kleber and Dwight Powell on those days. But I'm with you otherwise. And on the days that Porzingis is healthy, playing minutes, I'm not touching anybody in the front court but him, and I kind of want to just see him play at least 32 minutes before I start investing into a higher-ish price tag on a guy like that.
I think in competitive games early on, now I believe he may sit. They may give him some load management on back-to-back games and such, but I think that in games that are competitive, close games, and then up and down, I think 30 minutes is a slam dunk for him, and I think that in that time frame he's going to produce. So we will see, my man. We will see, but should be a step in the right direction. And it's fun that the fact that Dirk is passing the torch to Luka, and I just saw an interview with Luka the other day, and he said he really doesn't want to be talked about as having to fill Dirk's shoes, which obviously nobody can, but he does want to. The one area he does want to follow is in being with the franchise long term, and he and Kristaps are tight already. And at least you have those two, and you build. I think the Mavs, at least there's a brighter future than we've seen in a long time, as far as a few younger guys getting in there. And people forget Porzingis is still a baby. I mean, he's in his early 20s. Still, is he 22, 3, whatever he is? He's still young, so they're going to be fantastic. But in the future, so all right, man. Are you ready to tackle is it my turn or your turn?
I believe it's your turn. I started off with a little bit of the Mav talk, but
all right. I will go with the Houston Rockets, and I'll keep it somewhat abbreviated because
we're going to talk about them a ton.
Yeah. So Houston, I obviously we all caught the first game of the preseason. They played the pitiful Shanghai Sharks. Oh my God, they were so bad, but they just sliced and diced them. Harden had a triple-double in the first half. I was surprised they played their guys as much as they did. I know you mentioned a great, and it's the kind of edges that we look forward to, and you brought forward. So I'm not taking credit; it was your call. But D'Antoni, as you said, does play his guys a lot in the preseason and try to get chemistry. So that's a big plus. And I think that they're obviously going to be running and gunning. I mean, that first game, you can't take anything into that. But man, they've got an absolute plethora of 3-point shooters and guys out on the perimeter that can play. I think I know we may disagree a little bit on this, so I'm looking forward to your take on it. But I know that their pace of play has been bad because it's for a couple of years now, because it's usually Harden 27 dribbles and then either a step back or he goes to the hoop and gets fouled. But with Westbrook, I think everything changes with this team. I see, D'Antoni's always wanted to play more of an up tempo. That's been his style for years. Suns, Knicks, wherever he's gone, he's tried to go up tempo. So I think with Westbrook, I think they're going to play faster. Obviously, Gordon with his spot-up shooting and House and Green, those guys are going to all be firing all over the place. PJ Tucker from the corner. They all have their positionality and roles. They're probably the most well put together team as far as experience together, and I think that's why a lot of people are starting to pick them. I've seen on NBA TV, they were making their selections, and both guys on that particular show had picked the Rockets to win it, which I was sort of shocked, but I can understand that. I mean, this Westbrook is a big ad, but the rest of these guys are all in place and they all know their role. Capella looked terrific in that first game, but he was like playing against like you and me. So I guess you can't, put too much stock, but I like the fact that they brought Tyson Chandler in as his backup. He's like the greatest mentor guy ever. I think he'll be coaching Capella and be a tutor to him. Capella's going to be a guy I'm looking at early on. I think he's a guy that's going to have a bigger year. He's been so under the radar in this preseason time, but I'm excited for Capella. All the rest of those 3-point shooters, on a given night, if you want to pick the right guy, God bless you, but it's a hard to call. Gordon is so point, dependent. He's not going to give you a whole lot else. But, any night you can take Harden and Westbrook. They both can go off for triple doubles each on a given night, especially with the pace they're going to play. So I'm extremely, I'm on the Rockets. I believe in them early. I think that their pace of play is going to increase. I'm not afraid to spend some of my bigger dollars on specific nights, picking Westbrook or Harden on that night with a Capella or mixing that in there. So what is your take, man? Do you think they'll move the ball better?
Yeah, I mean, I think a clear indicator that they're going to push the pace a little bit more this season is the fact that they're planning on starting Eric Gordon. So he's a guy that was coming off the bench. They're planning on just beating teams down in the ground early, getting massive leads, and then almost taking a Warriors approach. All right, we don't need to play the fourth quarter, unless Harden's or Westbrook is 2 rebounds or 3 rebounds away from a triple-double, then maybe they'll play him again. But no, I think these guys are going to be fine playing next to each other. I think a lot of people overreacted initially saying they're going to eat into each other so much and everything else, but they're both very capable and very good at their own special things, and they're 2 guys that will feed off of each other as far as just the synergy. Westbrook's a junkyard dog. He's a very aggressive player. He's a guy that will get up and will play for a teammate willing to play for him. And Harden kind of always had a good track record of being one of those teammates. He's never been one, I guess you could say, like a sellout or a guy that wanted to leave or anything like that. He wanted to go get his opportunity, and Westbrook, was one player that said to him when he was leaving OKC, go get yours. Go do what you got to do. So these guys have always kept in communication. They're good friends. I think there's going to be plenty of core chemistry. Capella, again, I like what you brought him up. I'm expecting a really big year from Capella. Really big defensive year, really big rebounding year from him. I think he's really going to take his game to the next level, especially when you have, like you said, a mentor like Tyson Chandler there for him. And yeah, definitely D'Antoni. If anybody already read my articles for our premium side over there, DFS for beginners, or I have a few other ones out there. One of the things I mentioned looking into this preseason is when in doubt, play with D'Antoni, because he likes to load these guys up in minutes. We've seen him do it with Chris Paul and Harden when they were trying to build some chemistry over the last time. And, both these guys were playing 30 minutes for the first few games during preseason. So I'm kind of going into this one with the same approach. I don't count that last game against Shanghai, like you said. That was just kind of like a free gimme. So expect them to kind of take this game against an actual NBA team a little bit more serious and take their lineup rotation a little bit more serious.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's you bring up some interesting points there. I think that one thing that I want to mention is I don't know how many. I'm a basketball junkie, and I believe that you get a lot of edges in DFS by watching these games from start to finish, listening to the announcers, watching the coaches, listening, because you get those little pieces. And I doubt that many people watch that Rockets and Shanghai or whatever Sharks all the way to the end. I watched the whole game, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm so glad I did, because it was the Houston announcers that were on that game. So they're the ones that were doing the game. So they know the real inside skinny, and they you get a lot of that daily feedback of what's going on inside the team from those guys. And they made a great point towards the end of that game when I think most people had already turned it off. And it was the big question is on rebounding, because defensive rebounding, that's where Harden has made his triple doubles, by grabbing all those defensive rebounds from the guard spot. And Capella, if he's in the paint, he's got the rebound. If not, sort of everybody clears and Harden gets it. Well, obviously, as we know, Adams, as we've talked in the past, everybody clears everybody out. So Westbrook could get every single rebound at Oklahoma City. So now you have this dynamic that's very odd, is you've got all of these free rebounds that are usually there for these guys that they have to split up. And that may cause a little bit of a decrease in total DFS points. And I thought that was just a great point that the Houston announcers had brought up is, as much as Capella played great in that game, they were talking like they felt his rebounding was going to decrease this year just because of Harden and Westbrook's, way that they go after the defensive glass. So an interesting point and something to keep aware of, as you're using guys in certain scenarios.
Definitely. I mean, one thing, if I were to, just chip in on that a tiny bit, what I'm anticipating is just the ball to get out of Capella's hands as soon as possible. Grab the rebound, give it to Westbrook. Generally, my thinking, if I'm not an NBA head coach, you're the coach, so maybe you tell me.
Not NBA.
No. But you have that mindset. So I would want Westbrook pushing the ball as fast as possible, collapsing the D, and when you got a guy like Russell Westbrook taking 3 defenders with him because he just pushed a cross court in 2-3 seconds flat, you're gonna have a wide open James Harden just sitting there waiting for that swing pass on the baseline. So they're gonna have plenty of plays like that. They have now Gordon on one side, they'll have Harden on the other on those kinds of situations, and it's gonna be easy pickings for Westbrook assists. So that's
I'll tell you, they're complementary players. Mike I'll tell you, Gordon, Daniel House, Gerald Green. These guys can play and they can shoot. They are a dangerous team, and I'm not overreacting against their game against the Sharks. I've been saying that all along. I like their rotation, and I think that they're already in sync of Westbrook hasn't played yet. I get that. That's going to be a big part of it. But all those other guys, you know exactly what they're going to do. You know what position they're going to play, where they're going to shoot, what to expect. So I think they're going to do well. I think they're going to crush some teams and put some points on the board. But I'm with you. I think Westbrook, moves them up 10, 12 notches on the pace level and gets some more opportunities for players. And with Westbrook, he's not playing again in this next game either. Again, he had both knees just cleaned out a little bit. He's fine, but they want to bring him along slow. But once he gets into the groove and is full speed, man, they're going to be an exciting show to watch on any given night for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's it's one thing I'm going to be looking forward to. I really want to see these guys play next to each other. I love Westbrook. I've always been a huge Westbrook fan. I'll be the first one to criticize parts of his game, but when you just talk about an overall athlete and somebody who just brings fans into the seats, explodes to the rim, plays with so much energy, and somebody that you want to see with the ball, as bad as a shooter is, I love seeing Westbrook with the ball in his hands at the final second because he will find a way to get an open shot. It may not fall, but he's one of the best at creating for himself. And now you have another guy like James Harden, who arguably one of the best ISO players of all time, we could say, playing. They're going to be able to have their way on offense, and I think Westbrook said it perfectly. It's going to be scary.
Well, I'm with you. People that I know Westbrook has a ton of haters and people get on him all the time, but I've said it all along. I mean, obviously Michael, Kobe, a few guys, are definitely a level above. But as far as just pure motor, as far as just absolute, balls to the wall, let it all out, pure motor on every play, I don't think I've ever seen any player in the history of the league that plays harder than Westbrook does in that perspective. And I admire that regardless of the outcome.
Absolutely, you have to. He's a fan favorite. He's the type of guy that when he left OKC, the writing was on the walls. He pretty much said, guys, if you're good, I kind of want to get out of here now. And I'm sure the fans still love him there. He's that kind of guy. I mean, he's unbelievable. We're going to be a little bit disappointed once he gets a little bit older and he starts to lose some of this athleticism because we're going to need to see him step up in other aspects of his game where he's kind of struggled with, some of the percentages, especially his last season. His free throw percentage was abysmal. So there's a few things I'm expecting, and I'm personally expecting, the turnovers to obviously play next to Harden. They're going to cut back a little bit. The shot attempts will probably go down a little bit. Assist rate will probably go up a little bit, so I'm expecting a few different things from his game to change and overall for the better.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Speaking of OKC, did you see the blurb today where the Thunder are actively shopping your favorite player in the league, Steven Adams?
Yeah, I think I actually I mentioned this. I didn't think it would happen this soon, but
I know I didn't either. I thought they'd wait till close to trade deadline times.
Makes more sense. He's going to explode with rebounds and other stats. Like he's going to boost his trade value a little bit, show people what he can do when he's not playing next to Russell Westbrook first, and then get what you could.
I was shocked to see that at this point, preseason wise.
I mean, yeah, I'm shocked. Just like you said, I'm shocked to see it at this point. But it's like I said, I think last time there had to be a reason for Nerlens Noel to come back, and he could have easily signed a 1-year deal with anybody else and had probably could have started for a few teams in the league, and I'm sure he had plenty of other offers. So with all the options and everything that he had, he there had to be like a whisper in his ear saying, "Hey, listen, man, just sit around for a little bit. You'll be our starting center before the All-Star break or something." So, and it kind of just goes to show you that there probably is. He's going to be starting. He's actually a really good late-round draft pick in any best ball league or any kind of season-long league. He's going to be worth it when he's starting. Just unreal defensive numbers from that guy.
Yeah, I agree with you. Block shot guy for sure. But it makes you wonder though how fast if they're gonna, they may move Chris Paul as well. If they're gonna move both of those guys, I mean, I think the fact that they've acquired 15 draft picks over the next 4 seasons already, it's like, good Lord, how many assets can you have? But anyway, I just wanted to mention that because I know you're the a card-carrying member of the Steven Adams and Aquaman fan club. So.
I always will be. Big
All
Adams
right,
guy.
dude. All right, let me give a quick shout out because we've got 3 teams left. Again, we're so excited that all these preseason shows have been sponsored, by our partners at Fantasy Draft, and announcing the fact that we'll be doing these daily shows throughout the season, 7 days a week. And again, our presenting sponsor is Fantasy Draft, the only rake-free fantasy site in the industry. Make sure you get on fantasydraft.com, use the promo code HoopBall, get that 7-day free membership. Our listeners will be able to get in that Coaches Challenge tournament on a weekly basis, which will be a lot of fun. And, you're going to save a ton of rake, and Fantasy Draft is the only place to do that. So, you've got a little bit of time to get prepared for Fantasy Draft. They're going to launch on October 22nd on opening night. So, you'll be able to really get a feel for teams a little bit. But, I know I did my majority of my DFS play there. And now this year with the rake free, it's like, it's like cashing 10% extra on everything that you hit. So we thank you again for them and their sponsorship. Remember also, with any of these podcasts, you can pick us up. Just search Hoopball NBA DFS today. We're everywhere a podcast can be found: Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, iHeart, Spotify, YouTube. Take the time, if you would, just a couple seconds, rate, review, subscribe, hit the 5 stars, the likes, give us a positive review, a thumbs up, whatever you can. Again, we want to keep our sponsors happy. We want to continue to be able to bring you this content, which I believe, and I don't say this in an arrogant way at all, but I believe we're going to be bringing you the best daily DFS NBA free content coverage in the industry, bar none. Now, there's some great ones out there, but a lot of them are behind paywalls. A lot of them there's some costs involved. But, please continue to, support our sponsors so that we can, bring you this free content. So, again, hit us up on Twitter. I'll say that one more time so that, any questions you have going into the season after we finish this show, and then questions on a daily basis for, status of certain players. You can catch us on Twitter. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi, and he's at Mike Apotria, MikeApotria. So catch us on Twitter and in the Hoopball, hoop-ball.com forums. I am on there all the time answering questions, and the blurbs and such you'll be able to get right at the hoop-ball.com website, and you can pick those up on Twitter as well. Okay, we are 3 teams left, and the Memphis Grizzlies are on the clock. You've got it, man.
And this is like one of my favorite teams. I'm looking forward to watching this season.
Really?
Yeah, man. They just have a lot of youth. I'm really excited to watch. I'm a huge Jaren Jackson Jr. fan. Can't wait to see his game. I was very, very upset to see it cut short last season with the injuries, but really looking forward to the leap that he could take this year. Just a premier shot blocker, can step out, can knock down the three, great rebounder. There's literally not a hole in his game. Just seeing the DFS value that Jonas Valanciunas can provide in a full workload is unreal, and I'm fully anticipating him to be underpriced. Just because of all the other names that are going to be out there, it's hard to kind of put him up there. But when it comes to points per minute in DFS, he is up there with a lot of the best ones. I mean, this is a guy that even when he was playing in Toronto, we would always just be screaming, give the guy the minutes, and he's finally getting them. So I'm really looking forward to him. And of course, we got the rookie John Morant. We got to talk about Morant. He's a guy that can easily make a big splash like right away. Yeah. Especially in the assist column. I don't expect him to be a huge scorer. I expect him to struggle a little bit in season long as far as turnovers and percentages. But again, the turnovers do knock him a little bit, but we're not worried about the percentages. So I'm expecting there to be plenty of playmaking. This team is going to play off the rails. It's already been said. Get rid of that mentality that used to kind of be sitting there when you think about the Memphis Grizzlies and the slow, churn it out, grind it out game, because that's gone. True. This team is going to be flying. And I'm expecting, especially like rookies like Brandon Clark, I want to watch this kid so bad, just seeing how much athleticism, how many shot blockers this team has and what they can really do and all the different lineups that they could change. But right now, there's three guys that I primarily have my eye on. I'm not really worried about the whole conjunction going on over there at small forward with, Kyle Anderson. They're like they said, he's probably going to wind up, in my opinion, being the starter. I think it should be Clark. But he's a little bit big. He's more of a power forward, but he's 6'8". You could probably get away with it on the wing. But the main guys you're looking at for me is going to be Triple J, Morant, Valanciunas. Those are the guys that we know are going to have the most secured lineups. They're going to be where the offense is focused around, and those are the guys I'm going to definitely have tons of share of this year.
All right, and what's awesome is that we can bring two completely different, ideas and thoughts to the table, because this is one, my man, that I disagree with. I personally feel like this will be one of my top fade teams of the year, and I'll explain why. And it's great that it's good that our listeners, we can't agree on everything, and we're not supposed to. So we'll see how these will play out. But here's my quick thinking. I think John Morant is going to be a fantastic possible all-star point guard in 2-3 years down the line. I don't think that, he's ready for that yet. I think he's going to have a ton of turnovers and just, be, not explosive from a DFS standpoint right off the bat. And I like him a lot. I really do. They brought Tyus Jones in to really, give him some break and help him, get into the flow of things. I think down the road as the season goes, maybe more so. The shooting guard position, who knows? Dylan Brooks, Grayson Allen, DeAnthony Melton, Josh Jackson. I have no idea. The conglomeration at small forward of Slow-Mo and Jay Crowder, Josh Jackson, Bruno Caboclo, Iguodala, who probably won't play for them. I think they'll move him on. And then that takes me to the big spots. Now, I get it. Triple J is very good, but he's unproven. I have not seen, long enough sample size for me to say I'm going to commit my kind of DFS dollars to Jackson just yet. I need to see more. Brandon Clark, fantastic in Summer League, MVP of the Summer League. He was terrific. I think he'll work into the rotation, but he's a rookie. It's going to take time. I don't know what his minutes are going to be right off the bat. And here's my concern on Joe Val. I agree with you. The guy is just an amazing fantasy points per minute guy. But there's two things that concern me. Last year, the last third of the season or so, when he exploded, Triple J was out. So he had all of those minutes, all of those rebounds, everything his way. Plus, he was playing for a contract, which he signed an extended contract this year. So that concerns me a little bit. So I just don't have a good feel for anybody across the board as far as somebody that I'm going to count on early on my team. So it's awesome that, we have two different looks at this team, but it'll be fun to see how it plays out.
Absolutely, and I'm just more or less fully anticipating Triple J to kind of play a little bit more on the outside this year. I know it's kind of, cliche to talk about, the summer league hype videos or summer training hype videos and all that, but he's been working very hard on his outside shot. And Joe Val, yes, he's out of that contract year hole where he's going to play a little bit harder, but he's also a guy that's finally getting the minutes that he's always wanted. So, one has to imagine that he wants to hold on to him and show why he could. So, I would maybe suggest if you're feeling that way, just target him against, teams where they're playing big, and he's going to have to play a lot. So I still fully into he's going to get his production, in my opinion, I think, regardless, especially playing with a young point guard like Morant, who's a very gifted passer. They're going to definitely use a lot of pick and rolls with Joe Val. But, hey, we'll wait and see, I'll be on my Memphis one night, and maybe hopefully it's the night of the contest. It would be nice to rub it in your face if Joe Val just gets me a nice win in it.
We'll definitely be talking noise on that for sure. But I do love John Morant, though. I mean, the way he sees the floor and his explosiveness to the basket, man, is he fun to watch. He's going to be the Grizz are going to love him. And I agree with you. One point I will give you is they aren't going to be, everybody has to totally remove the Conley, Gasol, Grindhouse days, because they are a complete reset and they're going to play at a super high pace. So that does help. I just have to see the parts and how they're going to fit better for me to feel comfortable. So we will go from there, my man. All right, two squads left. And the last interview we want to play, and I think it's only appropriate, is for our preseason, is the New Orleans Pelicans and the tremendous and awesome, I think the newest, nicest guy, maybe he's going to take over that moniker from Dirk, is Zion Williamson, and just his excitement for joining the Pelicans and what his role is going to be this season.
And you're looking at this season, and I played for Alvin Gentry. You watched him back in the past. They like to run. They like to get up and down. How much does Coach talk to me about the pace you guys will be having?
Oh, like you said, we like to run. He goes, if you guys want to jog, we'll be a jogging team, but we're not. We're going to run, and I love that because when you run, it creates a lot of opportunities.
And you look at defense. You have some guys that can block shots. You have some guys that can switch. How good, and everybody's talking about you guys in fast break situations, but how good you think you guys are going to be on the defensive end, even though you have some young players?
I think we're going to be great. I feel like once we come into our own, once everybody learns the system, I think we're going to be a great defensive team.
How excited are you for the first day of actually getting on this court and going at it in training camp?
I'm excited. This is what it's all about, what we do on the court, and I'm hyped about it.
There you go. I mean, you got to love Zion. I mean, the fact that guy, with the attention, the hype, all the stuff that's gone on, and he stays humble. He stays, he's done a ton of stuff already in the New Orleans community. I love the guy. I just hope he crushes it. He's such a good guy.
Yeah, and I mean, everyone's going to want to see him succeed. They don't want to put this unneeded pressure on him, but it's good pressure. It comes with being the number one overall pick, and you just got to trust your own talent when you get on the court when you're a player like him, and just do what got you there. Yes, you want to be able to fit and mesh around this team where they brought in all these other pieces and everything else, but at the same time, you're their foundation. So make them build around you, in my opinion. If I'm Zion, that's the approach I would take going into the NBA. Just kind of do what made you successful your entire career. Don't try to change your game whatsoever. Ben Simmons didn't really do that. We've seen him have plenty of success outside of, obviously his 3-point shooting, but he just doesn't shoot them. At least he's not trying to do stuff that we know he can't do.
Right.
So, I'm kind of hoping for the same approach, but there are going to be a few mouths to feed over there. Bringing in a couple guys, Lonzo, Josh Hart, obviously Drew Holiday's still there. They brought in Derek Favors, Brandon Ingram. So there's a lot of new faces that are going to be there with him. And it's really just a wait-and-see approach. I'm probably not going to go near Zion for the first week or two. I just expect him to be way too high owned in GPPs, and I don't, his salary's probably going to be a little bit overinflated because of his just raw ability, what he could do, and the hype and everything else that follows him. So I'll let other people kind of absorb that, while I'll go for the much unsexier Derek Favors.
Derek Favors, okay, yeah. I'll tell you what, I'm excited for New Orleans. And considering, again, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, I think, throughout these preseason shows, but I still can't believe that the Pelicans, with a couple months left in the season last year, with Davis sitting out and just complete obliteration of their, of any respect that they had from anybody in the league, and they go from that to hiring David Griffin as the new general manager, getting that first pick, pulling off that trade where they were able to get all those great assets, and just add a bunch of really, really good players. I mean, I was so impressed with Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Jackson Hayes, and in the NBA Summer League, I thought they were two of the better rookies there. And those were the two picks after Zion. So, I mean, I'm really excited for them. From a DFS standpoint, this is going to be one of those teams where you just have to pick the right guy on the right night, because Alvin Gentry plays up tempo. I'm not the biggest Alvin Gentry coaching fan. I think he's a great guy and everything, but I'm not sure he manages the game as well as some coaches. So I'm not sure how he's going to handle having like an 11-man rotation here, because I'll just gun this real quick. Lonzo Ball, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Frank Jackson, Brandon Ingram, Drew Holiday, J.J. Redick, Etuan Moore, who they say is in the rotation, and Josh Hart, Zion Williamson, Derek Favors, and Jackson Hayes, and Jahlil Okafor. That's 12. So those are guys that are all supposedly supposed to play. How is that all going to wash out? I don't know. What it does is it scares me from a DFS standpoint, and who's going to shine here. I think Zion will also, obviously have some good games, but there's, like you said, there's a lot of mouths to feed. That's a perfect way to put it. And, Drew Holiday is everybody's saying he is the leader of this team. He's the veteran. It's sort of his team to lead and take the pressure off Zion and get everybody going. But there's a ton of guys that can play here. I mean, we know Lonzo and Brandon Ingram could be terrific. Favors, like you said, is a proven solid NBA player that, is a double-double on any given night. And, Redick is going to get his threes up and have some bigger games. I don't know how you don't get Alexander Walker in that rotation with his abilities. And, Frank Jackson is probably a rotational player as well. So, I mean, you've just got a lot of people there. I think it's going to have to come out in the wash, because I know Gentry's style is generally to try to get down to about an 8-man rotation. And I think that he'll eventually get to that point, but I think it's going to take a little bit of time to do that. I don't see how they send a Jackson Hayes or somebody like that down to the G League. He's just too talented. But I don't know. Josh Hart, I don't think I mentioned either. Kenrich Williams, who's supposed to get some minutes. So, there's just a lot of confusion there on what that rotation's going to be. There is some talent, but it's going to be a gigantic wait and see for me, pretty much across the board.
Yeah, the only guys I'm really looking at, I think early on in the season, might be, I think Drew's going to be a little bit overpriced for what I'm looking to spend on him, just because of what his price was at last year with all the usage he was absorbing over there. Would basically just be Zion and, like I said, Derek Favors, or not Zion, I'm sorry, Lonzo and Derek Favors. I'm going to avoid Zion, but I think Lonzo, just his ability to produce in multiple ways without even needing to score, he doesn't need the usage necessarily. He's going to handle the ball a ton anyway. That's what he was brought in to do. So his role and his job is going to be secure. So his avenue is going to be secure, and so is Favors, I think. So those are the two guys I'd have an eye on. I think Alexander might be on the outside of the rotation. For the beginning of the season, at least, until they kind of establish it. But that's just kind of my thought. I mean, especially if they want Etuan Moore shooting 6 threes a game, like you said. That's a little, I don't know about that, but
I know, that's crazy.
I think that's pretty much all I got right now for the Pelicans. Like you said, we're gonna have to wait and see a little bit more and just how this team meshes. I mean, it's a completely different team from last year. Literally, only starter that's the same is gonna be Drew Holiday.
My little sleeper dude for them is Brandon Ingram. I think that kid is terrific. And, they made – I read a medical comment they made today that he's completely cleared of that whole blood clot thing that gave him some trouble last year. And, he's coming into camp. He put a little bit of weight on because he's always been too thin, and he's looking better. And I think he's got, people forget he's like 6'10". What was he, this second pick overall?
Second pick overall, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and, right next to Ben Simmons. So I've never been a huge fan of his game, but if you take the expectations out of it of being the number 2 overall pick, I think he's still a very good player.
Yeah. And a lot of potential there, no question about it. Obviously not a playoff team in my opinion, probably for a year or two, but give this team some time to mesh and grow, and they're going to be nasty. I still am in awe of that Jackson Hayes dunk. I know I've mentioned it on every show, but it's the best in-person dunk I've ever seen in the summer league when he jumped over that guy, spread eagle basically. And Vince Carter was at the game watching. I know I mentioned that before, but for any of the listeners, it was awesome. If you Google it, Jackson Hayes dunk summer league, it blows your mind. But all right, man, we are down to our last team, 30 for 30. We've done it over a 3-week period in about 4.5 hours of podcast explosion here, and we finish up with the San Antonio Spurs, and the guy on my bad list right now, Pop, because I'm still mad about his 7th place FIBA finish. But anyway, the San Antonio Spurs, I'll lead us off. DeJounte Murray coming back is a big thing, and he's supposedly healthy and ready to roll. So I think you'll see he and Derek White form a real formidable backcourt. I think they're going to be fun to watch develop. They got Patty Mills and Forbes and those guys coming off the bench, but I think Murray and White will be your main guys that on given nights you'll be able to use. Supposedly Murray has no restrictions after clearing all his medical stuff, so he's good to go. Your main 2 guys are probably going to be the most usage guys on the team still, though, are DeRozan and Aldridge, and those guys are going to get theirs for sure. I think they certainly both on certain nights had great games, and on certain nights had terrible games. So they are definitely some boomer bust guys. You really have to pick them in the right spot against the right matchup. And you know how Pop's going to play a million guys and rotate a million guys, so it's always a danger there. Now they're talking up Lonnie Walker a ton in these first few days of camp. I know he's had a great offseason. He's also medically cleared, and that kid's got some phenomenal potential. I think he'll be in their rotation, and I'm looking forward to see how he develops. You got your grit and grind Pop guys. They brought Damari Carroll in, which is, Pop kind of player perfectly. Rudy Gay's still there. They brought Trey Lyles in. Jakob Poeltl is still there at center and, can put up some decent numbers at times. So, again, the Spurs are going to be the Spurs. Their pace is always going to be a little slower. They do have a little bit maybe more pep coming this year, with Murray and White both in there pushing the ball. You got to take them, DeRozan, Aldridge on specific nights, depending on the matchups. But, never really a big DFS target team. But, there are times where they're very usable in certain matchups. And they did score more points per game last year than they had in the previous 5. So, if that trend continues, there's a possibility of some usable guys.
Yeah, no, that's quite a way to end it. No, it's the Spurs at the end of the day. We're not really targeting much with them, not targeting much against them. They're never great at anything. They're never bad at anything. It's DeRozan in the right matchups, Aldridge in the right matchups against poor rebounding teams, and I'm expecting, Murray isn't somebody really known for his offense. He's actually, which is one of the fantastic perimeter defender. So maybe that's something to keep in mind, point guards facing him. might be something you might want to shy slightly away from. But I just think it's right where you said it. You're really just looking at two guys. Derek White was a guy that we were able to juice the orange with a little bit last year, but with Murray back, that's really going to cut into things. And I'm not really touching anybody at the other positions. It's cut and dry. I think with the Spurs, it's always kind of cut and dry. You know what you're doing with them.
Pretty much do. You know what you're going to get, and they'll probably win 50 games like they do every year somehow, or whatever, close to it. But awesome, man. That's it. That's all 30 teams. So, we've touched on just about everybody. Hopefully it's been something usable for the listeners that they can start to apply as we go live with these and then into the regular season. And, we're just excited to build a good listenership and couldn't be more excited, Mike, to be working with you now on a daily fantasy show. I know we've always, for the last year or whatever we've known each other, have talked about the potential of doing this. So couldn't be more excited. I think it's going to be a blast, and it's going to be fun, man.
Absolutely, and again, it's something that we talked about. We really wanted to do, and I just want to thank everybody that we work with here over at Hoopball that kind of supports us. Everybody that listens and follows and writes here, and just the guys out there on Twitter who interact with us, the guys that come into our forums, the people that go out of their way and see the value in what we do, purchase the premium package, and come in here, rate and review us, listen to us. It's part of everything, and big shout out to the Main Man Brew up there too. Congratulations! I just wanted to say, yes, congratulations, Brew.
New baby,
yeah, brand new baby. Baby Brew is here. So big shout out to him. He's a guy that, listen, I've known Brew for a few years. He absolutely grinds. That guy works harder than anybody I've ever met. And the fact that going through this, preparing for a baby, putting out the B150 and the grind he's been putting into everything here. He's a guy that I wish nothing but the best for, and he deserves it. So.
I agree.
They allow us to have this platform, man, and it is awesome. We get to do some pretty cool things that, years ago, I think if you asked either one of us if we'd be having our own daily podcast for DFS, we'd probably be like, yeah, it'd be a good idea. It'd be fun, but probably not.
Exactly. And, I mean, it's come around quick, but we're ready and prepared. I mean, we've strategized over this for quite a while. We know how we're going to approach it. We have a very the content will be very consistent on a daily basis. We're going to, depending on the size of the slate, will depend on the time of the show. For a couple game slate, will be 10, 15-minute show. If we have a 14-game slate or something, we'll probably go an hour. But, we're going to let, the slate depend on the length of the show. But, we'll stick with the same procedure every day. We're going to do our intro. We're going to talk about NBA news that's on the forefront. Then we're going to dive into the games, go through them all. Really talk about every advantage, plus, minus, injury, everything that that's going on out there. And again, you'll have that early on, so you can look at it all day. And then we're also going to do a case study of the day before. Look at our lineup study and see stuff that went well, stuff that didn't go as well, so that we can all learn as a group each day from those decisions the night before. And then we're going to also have a recommendation for a high, mid, and lower priced guy, where we're going to help you build your lineups. And we'll go over pricing. We want you to, whatever site you're on, we want to help you with the pricing on all of those. We'll be bouncing different prices around. We're obviously going to focus a lot on fantasy draft once they get going on the 22nd, with them being our presenting sponsor. But we'll be touching on, Yahoo and DraftKings and FanDuel, and make sure that, wherever you're playing, that, the information we're bringing forward is going to be a big help to you. So we're excited for that. Our motto from the beginning when we decided to do this show was success occurs when opportunity meets preparation. And I know it sounds cliche, but I'm going to say it, at least once a week, to remind everybody that, if you want to make money at this, and, it's fun and it's great to do, and it's a, good hobby for some people, but it's a good moneymaker as well. And so if you're going to enjoy this and do it and spend your time and hard-earned money at trying to get a bankroll going, do it the right way. And we're going to help you along every step of the way and try to bring out, the best edges that you can get in every aspect of the game. So we're excited. Hit us up as much as you can on Twitter at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi, at Mike Apotria, MikeApotria. And we want to get involved with you on there with questions, updates, opinions, and that's it, man. Do you have anything else before we close out our last preseason preview?
No, I mean, at the end of the day, the next time they hear our voices, they're going to be winning money. So, tune in to tomorrow. We're going to touch on that one-game slate. So, let's get started.
Beautiful, man. All right. Well, thank you for joining us for this whole last 6 weeks of shows in preparation for the season. It's been awesome having you here with Hoopball NBA DFS today. For Mike Apotria, I'm Coach. We will catch you again on our next show tomorrow as we work together to crush it this season in NBA DFS. Thanks.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.